stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emile Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY572. With every installment, we follow Emile's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforge series.
Hello, listeners. It is wonderful to be speaking directly into your ears again. Moving on from that comment. Last time, we spent a lot of time focusing on Emile's journey to Anubis. Well, that's not really fair to say. We didn't really spend any time on the journey there. We spent all the time on what happened once he got there. Because when the Stardust got to Anubis, they discovered that there was another ship already there, another Vault Hunter ship, carrying a captain named Tycoon, who apparently is a little bit of a celebrity. Now, it took a lot of time to establish everything we wanted to know about. I believe the ship was called the Beowulf, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't look at my notes nearly as often as I should. He was a bit of a celebrity in the Vault Hunter community for helping save a lot of them, we established. There was a time that he saved a bunch of them from falling for a trap laid for them by the Imperium, and ever since then, between that and being a pretty talented scholar and true hunter of the vaults, it's been a little bit headhunted. Anyhow, Emile, not wanting to draw attention without having said anything by deorbiting to the planet, opened up a channel, spoke with the Beowulf and to Tycoon specifically, and had the help from Dash mostly, who was also in the end, trying to vouch for him. It turned into a need to have everybody meet up in neutral ground. They all met on an abandoned habitation module that was in orbit of Anubis. It's in the ring of lots and lots of abandoned debris and ships and stuff up there. Emile, Dash, and Vert went on board. Tycoon came on board with two other members of his crew. They met there, and in so doing, things got a little bit heated, specifically as regards Emile's past. Tycoon has spent this whole time not really knowing if he can entrust when Dash says that Emile has treated him well, because it could all be being said under duress. And when they were there, Tycoon was suggesting that it might be a situation very much like the leverage Emile had back on Cinder, where he had a bomb that the people of Concord were afraid of. That all led to speaking at length about what happened with Emile on Concord, and when that happened, Vert got very angry to hear about the bomb that blew up and the specifics about why Emile became a public enemy. And when that happened, Vert demonstrated his mutation that he got when battling the radioactive mantis back on the unnamed homeworld that Fern comes from. Vert got something of a superpower in the same way that Emile did. We're clearly going very, Incredible Hulk kind of backstories on these sort of things, where monumental amounts of radiation mean Emile can now release EMP, and Vert can now give kind of like a truth ray from his eyes. I described it last time as it's like the spell Zone of Truth from Dungeons & Dragons. He can stare you in the eyes and truly compel you to speak only the truth, and make the truth want to come out of your throat when he looks at you just right. It's all very Golden Age comics, if I understand my Golden Age comics well, which I probably don't. But I also feel like that fits well with the tone we've been trying to set from the very beginning of this pulpy action sort of science fiction show. So I hope that all gels with your understanding of how this world should work, because it certainly does mine. And with that all said, why don't we get back into the actual action here? So we left off right in that kind of moment where Emile had been lifted up by Vert, compelled to tell the truth. And Emile spilled his guts. I suppose I didn't say that part in the recap, but Emile absolutely told the entirety, really didn't leave much of anything out, except for the portion that happened after the rubble came down. He didn't mention anything about being trapped in the rubble or being responsible for Shark's death or his decision-making, and certainly didn't bring up being responsible for, oh god, what was his name? That has been so long now. Crap, I should really have... This is why I suppose some people keep more diligent notes and look at him, but god, the guy whose head he crushed with a rock. He never talked. Shit. No, it wasn't Ghost. Ghost was the tech person. There's Ghost, there's Valkyrie, and... Oh, I'm going to have to pause the recording and look at this. Stand by. Podcast fast-forwarding noises. Okay, I want for the record that it did come... I was trying to look it up, but it did come to me before I actually found the answer. Sage. His name was Sage. That was the dude that Emile crushed with a rock. Emile didn't mention that part in his little recap. He struggled and was able to conceal that part of the truth, but told the rest, and importantly, Vert understands that this all had to be the truth. And he said as much to everybody else in the room. So now everybody else in the room knows that, as far as Emile knows anyway, everything he said is the truth as he understands it. And these are all people that are upset at him for being a public enemy. Now, we definitely need to find out, where do they go from there? Can Emile leverage that into changing their mind on any of this at all? Can we make progress on making amends to the people of Concord by perhaps, we discussed how Tycoon had something of a voting block behind him. Not literally, it's not like a democracy kind of thing, but he has a lot of sway in the community. And so if he can here now convince Tycoon that he really is telling the truth about all of that and it really wasn't his fault, and that he really is trying, because right now, let's see. I'm actually going to do a fate move right now. I'm going to ask the Oracle if Emile is still under the effects of the compulsion to tell the truth or not. Because I think we ended before we made it clear whether that ended or not. So we're going to ask the Oracle. I think I'm going to put this as unlikely though, because narratively it seemed like we moved on from the part where Emile was still compelled and they were just talking about it as if it were over. So I'm going to say it's unlikely, but let's roll it. Is Emile still compelled to tell the truth? No, he's not. Now, it doesn't mean he can't pretend that he is, but I don't know if that would be his immediate thought. So anyway, he's not compelled to tell the truth anymore, but he's going to try and leverage this into the idea that, he's being upfront about that, and he really is doing what he can to get this power core. He can maybe show some stuff on his computer, because he's got that with him, put up a little bit of a display that shows the thing that he got from Deuce, the indication that he has this power core with the model number and everything, that he'll be able to requisition from the salvage yard or wherever it was specifically that he was supposed to go on that. I really have been trying to do this the right way, and I still am. I hope maybe now you can believe me when I say that I really am trying to bring a power core, an even better one than you would have had on the ship. Here, look. And he indeed pulls it up and demonstrates. I'd secure an advantage to have this be all nice and everything on his computer, but for one, I don't think he would need a roll to do it, and two, we're still rocking our +10 momentum from last time, so there's no real... I guess I could try and get a +1 on my next move by doing it, but whatever. It's not worth it. I don't want to fish for just every little last benefit I can get. It's not really necessary right now. But he demonstrates it on screen and shows, here's the model number here. It's all the things I said. Here's the proof that, of what I'm going to pick up and where, and that it's next on the agenda once he takes care of a small problem right here on Anubis, but he promises he'll get to it. And I think that's really that's the underlying thing here. The tension of whether or not this move is successful is all kind of steeped in that idea of, Emile really believes that it's just around the corner, he's going to get to it. But we've seen the way that the opposition he's up against, that clock keeps advancing, partly because Emile keeps doing other things. He keeps getting sidetracked by other missions, and there's a pretty major one here involving the Wooden Heart. Is he really going to get to it next? Or is he just fooling himself? And can he convince them of that? So anyway, basically every move we did last time, we're going to do a compel move here. It's going to be with Heart as he tries to convince them that this is all legit. He's trying to make amends, backed up, of course, by how he was forced to tell the truth that he didn't even mean to cause harm in the first place. He did cause harm, but it was the result of the AI. So when we compel with Heart, we get... Okay, it's a miss. One of those dice is a 10, so I can only burn momentum to turn it into a weak hit, but I think this might be the moment that it's definitely worth it to even get a weak hit on it, because that's going to mean they'll have a demand to go along with this, but I definitely don't want this to be a refusal to believe it. Emile needs this. So let's burn our momentum. I was sure hoping that we could burn it in a moment that it would turn something into a strong hit, but This will have to do. So they'll do what you want or agree to your conditions. So I guess I should better establish what those are. I suppose what he's trying to compel them to accept, to like do what he wants them to do with this information, is Emile was really trying to compel him to, really it's in this moment, like let them go. Let them go, because capturing Emile now, yeah, that's the angle on it that I could maybe have said a little bit more specifically. If you capture Emile to bring him back as a public enemy, well, let's do this part in character. You could outnumber me, you could bring me back. Yeah, I absolutely believe your ability to do that. But if you do, I can't actually make amends. And ultimately, what's going to be better for your people? Is it revenge? Is it the ability to do... I don't know what Valkyrie will do to a public enemy, but I can't imagine it's good. What Concord really needs, has needed all along, needed when I got there, and I have to imagine still needs. Concord needs the power supply so that they can stay hidden. I've always meant to make good on it. And if you bring me back without my ability to actually capture that, that can't happen. Yeah, the agreement comes with a demand or complication. And I think part of this is rooted in the idea that, yeah, Emile says that, but he's flying with the stolen ship. If Tycoon not only captures Emile, but if Tycoon and Dash and Vert all work together to capture Emile, and then also capture the Stardust, they could bring that back, and that was just the original power core. And so I think Tycoon brings that up, saying,
"It is a very persuasive argument you make, however, I believe you are very conveniently leaving out one particular option which comes along with you at every moment, which is the power supply that you stole to begin with. Why would they not just simply use that? It was their plan all along."
And Emile, again, kind of highlights certain aspects of like core specs and features of the supply that he's going to be picking up, and says, because if Concord settles for that, they're limiting themselves. I know what they need to be able to pull off. I have at least some idea of the amount of power that's going to be required to do the manner of stealth operation they're looking for, to really hide themselves from scanning from orbit. It's going to take all of that power just to pull that off. Whereas what I'm trying to bring to them, oh man, it's going to have room to spare. Look, in my time there, I was able to tell that Concord has a lot of power demands that are currently being met by just trying to make a stabilization field around chaos. It's working for now, it's feeding them, but really dangerous. All it takes is the stabilization field just getting a little bit out of alignment, and well, it could be the end of everything there. This power core would mean that they could transition away from riskier alternatives like that. You wouldn't have to stabilize chaos. So if you bring me back, you're just buying time.
"You are indeed a bearer of very compelling arguments. And yet, if I were to agree to let you go now, I have no guarantees. I have only your word that you are going to, momentarily, just after you finish this next thing at Anubis, that then you will go to pick up this power core and bring it back to Cinder. If I am to let you go, it is with a direct escort, straight to this location. I will watch you this entire time. The Beowulf will follow you as you make this journey. Pick up this power core, and then I will escort you back to Cinder, where I will witness your making of amends. But all of this happens now. No other distractions. I don't care what you have around Anubis, you abandon it. If this is important to you, demonstrate that to me by forsaking your other obligations."
And that definitely puts Emile in a bit of a bind here. I get my +1 momentum now that we know what the counteroffer is. But as we know, Emile made a promise to Fern that Emile was going to rid the influence of the Wooden Heart from the Stardust. Only then could it really be home to Fern, and well, that has not happened yet, not successfully. They've gotten some help on their side, and they've knocked out Zoya, so it's not currently a problem, but with Zoya still on board, the Wooden Heart still out there, and having done nothing about it, having to just forsake that now, it's basically which vow would he be forsaking? The one about making amends to the people of Concord, or the one he just made to Fern? And we've said many times now how Emile is very driven by his guilt over what happened on Concord. So I think he would definitely be leaning in that direction as far as what to first. Now, he would be trying to find a way to still somehow do both. But in this moment, Emile is going to agree that he is committed to making good now and will do that before anything else. Now, Fern is not here in this room right now. Fern is back on the ship. So Fern does not know about this agreement. But what I will do is that kind of taking on what Tycoon has to say, and between that and telling the truth and everything and knowing that Emile means it and demonstrating the specific way that he's going to make good on this, that's definitely worthy of a box of progress on I will make amends to the people of Concord with the gift of a power core. Committing to that agenda and being accompanied by the Beowulf, that's making that more likely to happen. It's advancing that narrative. Now, before they literally leave the room, though, in Emile's attempts to try and make good on his vow to Fern, I think he's going to try and see if he can get, at least temporarily, a prisoner exchange. He wants Zoya to be held captive on... No, I have an idea. I was thinking something of a prisoner exchange, but then I think I've got a better idea. Now remember, all along I said that when I did this vow, I was intending to probably end it pretty early. It would probably go poorly, but I was not planning on filling it anywhere near all the way. Now, we're only at 1 box out of 10, so far so good on that claim. But I think Emile is going to try and stall on that a little bit. He's going to use this newfound ability of Vert's. He's got a plan, and it involves compelling to tell the truth, because what they need is a weakness from the Wooden Heart. They don't have to get that from Anubis. They're going to get that from the Wooden Heart's ambassador. His avatar here. They're going to make him tell the truth. So in order to make that happen, Emile is going to have to make sure that at least Vert stays back on board his ship, but hopefully both Vert and Dash. And I don't think they would want to separate. But before everybody splits and goes to the different ships, he would say, now, under this agreement about being accompanied, I think it makes the most sense if we all go back to the ships that we initially came from. From your perspective, I imagine this has to be even better. You know, you have a couple of people on board that are going to make sure I'm not doing anything tricky to subvert this deal. From my perspective, I could really use the additional hands. Moreover, if I can't get the information I need on Anubis, and he turns to Vert in this moment and says, Vert, if we can't find a weakness to the Wooden Heart on Anubis, I'm going to need your help back on the ship, talking to Zoya directly. So are you two willing to ride with me? And I don't know if this is worthy of a compel. I'm just going to move the fiction along and say they agree to that. So anyway, let's get to that part, because I'm more interested in that. We've had our big meeting and everything. They're parting ways. It does occur to me that as far as like Tycoon's claim that they're going to follow him and watch him every way, like we established last time that the Beowulf had a radiation leak problem that was making it harder for them to plan jumps and do that as quickly. So if Emile ever changes his mind on that and really wants to just leave them behind, we established that wouldn't necessarily be the hardest thing to do. So I'm going to keep that in my back pocket as far as possibilities here. Anyway, the three of them return to the Stardust, and Emile is saying, probably during the walk down the like walkway thing that to the docking port, does thank them for like, to the degree that you both did, thank you for having my back. And continuing to now. And I do want to say officially, because I don't know if I've said these exact words, I am sorry. I know that I spouted off a lot in there about how it's not my fault, and I believe that, but it was still my doing. The truth of the matter is, there'd be a lot more people living in Concord right now if I had never shown up there. I carry that with me every day, but it's still important for me to say that I am sorry. And I hope in time maybe you can find it in you to at least believe that. If you can never forgive me, that's okay, but I hope you can at least believe me when I say that. And I think the way I'm going to represent this is Emile. This is Emile trying to make a connection. He wants to make a real relationship out of this with, I'm going to choose just one of them, and I think I'm going to choose, this is specifically to Vert, because Vert was the one that was all the more upset at him. Like, Dash was able to compartmentalize it a little bit more, but we're going to make a connection with Vert here. So we're going to roll heart as Emile tries to convince him that this is really important to him, and he wants to start this off right. So we make a heart move, and we get... Oh, it is a miss. You don't make a connection, and the situation worsens. Pay the price. So he does not wind up on there, and I think I understand why. It's too soon. It's too soon, and Vert just, in his grumbly way, as they're walking along, just says, "Don't. Just don't." And let's see, how does the situation worsen? It's going to be minor. Like, the stakes weren't exactly that high on this. So the pay the price, let's say that it's just on the level that, like, these are low enough stakes that honestly it could just be on the level of, like, Vert is upset with Emile, and he will begrudgingly still go along with the plan of, like, trying to get the information out of the wooden heart by trying to make his truth thing go off. Though I suppose he doesn't really have a lot of control over that yet. We've not established his ability to, so that might be tricky. But I think in other contexts, like, he's not going to be all of that chummy or helpful, and it just means that I think the other pay the price here is it kind of solidifies that even if Emile successfully gets himself off the list as a public enemy, like, if Valkyrie takes that away, we forgive you, or at least we don't pursue you anymore. I think this is the moment where Vert makes up his mind that it'll never be okay for him. Like, the consequence is that Emile will never form a connection with him. Well, he'll never be a bond. I suppose you can have a connection to somebody who's, like, an adversary, but Vert decides here and now that he's going to hold on to the bitterness and not ever forgive Emile. If that ever comes, it's going to take something more directly targeted towards him and not just words like this. Like, Vert is a man of action. Maybe if Emile stuck around long enough to, like, help them set up their whole system and, like, get things working, like, maybe that sort of thing might start to sway his mind, but it's going to be a long road to turn him around. I think Vert kind of storms ahead a little bit, just tromping along. And so it's just Emile and Dash, who definitely can't tromp ahead like that with his injured leg. I guess is healed in the med bay. Well, it was splinted in the med bay. He's definitely still pretty slow and with a limp. It was just treated. So it's Emile and Dash kind of hang back, and maybe Dash is at least a little bit more just like,
"You don't know, Vert. It's too early."
I was just trying...
"I know. He's not ready to hear you. It's all too fresh. Maybe someday, but not now."
So they all make it back to the ship, and Emile will have Fern stand down now that they're back here again. Fern's job is no longer to be the leverage to like demagnetize all of Dash's life's work. But I do think Emile is going to still try and make sure to, like, you never know what might happen. I guess Emile needs to make a choice in this moment. Does he extend an amount of trust by giving that hard drive back to Dash, or does he try and squirrel it away in a place where Dash can't get to it? You know, is he going to hold on to that kind of nuclear option sort of thing? And I think because he is trying to make amends for a time that holding on to leverage and nuclear options like that really went badly, I think he's going to go for the niceness. So Dash kind of has that little conversation with them as they're walking back onto the ship. Vert has already stormed off ahead. Emile folds that into the moment of, he tells Fern, like, as you see, we're all back. You can stand down. And Emile grabs the comm link that has the remains of Ironside on it. And he's going to actively hand it back to Dash to tell him, like, basically what I just said, which is, as we were just talking about, the last time I tried to maintain leverage over people in order to make sure that we could have a functioning relationship, it went really poorly. I don't want to be that anymore. If we're all going to be on this ship together, I want it to be out of a kind of mutual respect and a desire to pursue the same agenda. And with that in mind, maybe you should hold on to this. He extends it out and adds on, we're still going to get to it. We're still going to get Ironside back in his chassis. I promise you that. Ooh. Sounds a lot like an iron vow. I'm pretty chock full of iron vows right now, but that one would just be troublesome. That's just a small project. Yeah, fuck it. What's one more iron vow to add onto the list? It's just a troublesome. All of mine right now, it's epic and 3 formidable vows. One of them is probably going to get ended badly soon, but a troublesome vow, we can put that on there. It's not too bad, especially because it's not one that has a lot of timing to it. So Emile swears on the comm link. I guess there's some amount of iron in there. We will get to that, but you should hold on to this. So let's make that heart move, and as he swears this vow to Dash. Getting a weak hit. So you're determined, but begin your quest with more questions than answers. Take 1 momentum, and envision what you do to find a path forward. I mean, the path forward is kind of like what we were talking about before. I think it would just be, first they got to find out exactly what's wrong with Ironside's old chassis. Because at the moment, what's going on in the comm link, it's not too damaged, but there's no real benefit to messing around with that early. You might damage it in the process. So fix the body first. Keep that in a nice, stable area where nothing's going to happen to it. Then they can put it back in and do kind of robot surgery and all of that. It's a very technical kind of thing. It's clear what they have to do. I've given myself the momentum, so we're now up to +4. Dash takes the comlink back and says,
Well, I appreciate the gesture. I do believe you have another agenda, though, to take care of before we head out of here. Perhaps we should get to it.
Yeah, actually, in the name of gestures, you think you could get on the horn with Tycoon and coordinate a plan of where we're jumping to and when? Work through the details on that while I'll try and handle this interrogation with Vert.
I can do as you ask.
And so Dash hobbles over to the cockpit where he'll be on the radio with the Beowulf, and they'll figure out this jump plan. I think Emile will have made clear, don't execute it. I'll take care of it, which Dash is more than willing to agree to. He's not a pilot. He's not very good at it. It's just tell me the plan once it's coordinated. Emile is going to ask Fern to come along here. And while they're walking down the hallway over to meet Vert at Zoya's cell, Emile is going to own up to the decision he had to make. He's not going to lie or conceal it to Fern. He is going to tell them, well, Fern, I have some bad news. It's not too bad, but in order to get out of this situation, in order to keep going, during that meeting, I had to agree to immediately go to pick up the power core, the new one. I gotta pursue that, which means we can't go down to Anubis. We can't try and learn about the Wooden Heart's weakness. I had to choose that. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. They would have taken me captive. So I had to put that on delay. I know I swore to you, and I am not abandoning that vow. But I know I've spent a lot of time frequently telling you to just hold on a little bit longer. And I'm sorry that I'm going to have to do that again. Now, I've got another idea about how we can get the weakness. I've got a bit of a plan, if I can just get your trust here. I don't want to say it out loud because I don't know to what degree the wooden heart is able to hear and witness what we're talking about. But trust me, I have a plan. I think we might still be able to pull this off. Are you with me? And this is going to be another connection move. This is the first time that we've ever had to test your relationship, because your relationship with a connection is tested through conflict, betrayal, or circumstance. Somewhere between all of those, like the idea that Emile had to choose going against what he swore to Fern, that definitely hits this move. So we roll heart, and if we share a bond, we get to add +1. So we get to make a heart +1 roll, and let's see what happens as Emile asks for just extending some trust. Okay, we get a weak hit. We came so close to getting a strong hit. Not quite. On a weak hit, we develop our relationship, but also envision a demand or complication as fallout of this test. So let me think. What is the demand or complication? Well, Fern had said all along that... Okay, I've got it. The demand is Fern communicates, and we talked about how now that they're bonds, like the communication is more on the level of like Chewbacca and Han Solo. Like it's much more direct. Like Emile can really understand more specifically what Fern is trying to say. And so Fern basically communicates, if your idea fails, you have to blow him out the airlock. He's too dangerous to keep aboard, housing that force inside of him. And I think Emile will relent and accept that and say, let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, I hear you, and I'll do it. So because we get to develop our relationship, let's see, Fern is a dangerous bond. So that means we get to mark progress. Because Fern is already a bond, we get to just immediately mark progress on the bonds legacies track. And as dangerous, that means we put 2 ticks. So we're now at 1.5 completed boxes on bonds. All right, let's get into the meat of this. The 3 of them are all in a very familiar room now. It's the area directly outside of Zoya's cell with the barrier right up there. Vert is standing in wait. Emile walks up alongside him. It's a good deal shorter than Vert, particularly in the power armor. Kind of cocks his head up and says, now this is only going to work if you can do to him what you did to me. Do you think you can pull it off? And I think, particularly in the bad mood with Emile that he's in, Vert is just going to say,
No, I have no idea how it happened with you. It just kind of came out. I have no idea when it'll happen again.
But Emile has an idea. Because I think Emile has put together that Vert established this sort of truth beam when he was especially upset. When he was angry with Emile, it all came out. And so Emile recognizes that maybe it could come about with other emotions that are felt strongly, but Emile knows that Vert is upset with him still. Making him angry would be the easiest thing. Emile could irritate him into hopefully making this power happen again a lot more easily than he could make Vert feel some other strong emotion. So Emile's going to count on, like, in the moment, he'll get Vert to do it. So he says to Vert, I think when the moment comes, you'll find it within yourself. But I can't stress enough. And, like, they're looking, like, I think the captain is still unconscious in there. Zoya is still unconscious. Actually, I said that we would roll an oracle to determine that when it next came up. And it's been a little bit of time, but not a tremendous amount. So I'm going to leave this at 50-50. So is Zoya conscious in there? Yes. Ooh, and that would have even been the case on unlikely. Not on small chance, but on unlikely. So actually, Zoya is conscious in there, pacing about a little bit. Or no, like he'd be aware of Emile and Vert, and so now that the cover is blown and everything for everybody, I feel like he's just standing immediately on the other side of the crackling red barrier, just staring daggers, doing like a Kubrick stare at them. And if you're unfamiliar with what that means, one, look it up. It's you'll immediately be like, oh yeah, I've seen that in a million things. But description-wise. It's when it's the classic stare used in Kubrick films and elsewhere now, where you lean the head down and then you avert your eyes up. So that your eyes are right there at the very top, kind of occluded by your brow. Looks all kind of creepy. We're getting that from inside that cell. A full-on Kubrick stare at them, just like ready for it. Like as soon as they bring that barrier down, trouble's a brewing. So Emile kind of gestures there and says, sure, I don't have to tell you twice, but pretty sure we're going to have to do this the hard way. Maybe you should be in front. And I think given his current mood with Emile, he would again kind of brusquely just be like,
kid, you don't have to tell me about doing things the hard way. Just stay behind me and get the fuck out of my way. I'll keep him from getting out.
Heard. And Emile will indeed do that. Now, I'm trying to think whether this is worthy of making a full physical conflict out of, or not, or if we should just settle this as a result of him. Let's make this, maybe we do this as a battle move, where it's kind of a battle, but it all happens in a blur. The objective would just be to subdue him. No, I'm actually going to do this as a series of just regular moves. We're not going to use the combat rules on this. So Emile gets behind, puts his hand up, and releases the barrier. And so now, from this moment, it's largely reliant on Emile being able to provoke the response necessary fast enough. Because, like, Vert is very powerful and he has his power armor and stuff, but he's not using his gun or anything, so he's a little bit hindered. He's not trying to knock this guy out or anything, or do... Like, they need him awake and able to answer questions. So there's only so much he can do. And when the Wooden Heart sees an opportunity like this, like, there's every expectation that he's going to go full glowy eyes again, and really have the full strength of that behind him. Even somebody like Vert will only be able to hold off against that for so long. So Emile needs to be... This is all contingent on Emile provoking the truth thing coming out fast enough. So I'm going to represent that as secure an advantage. And I think, unfortunately for me, this is kind of best represented by with deception, stealth, or trickery. It would be a toss-up between that or strength, endurance, or aggression, because one way or another, he needs to provoke the anger of Vert. Either of those actions are going to be the same +1 for Emile. And like what he's doing in order to provoke this kind of anger is Emile is going to be getting in the way. Like really disrupting. And so it's a real gamble. Emile is going to get in there, be in his way, make it so that Vert is going to have trouble like doing everything he can to secure this guy. Like he just can't move his arms in the right way. He's going to piss him off, and then he's going to yell at him to do better. Which definitely turns this into more of an iron move. So Emile is annoying the shit out of him by blaming him when it's his fault. And he's already pissed off at Emile. So with all of that, he's going to try and secure the advantage of getting the truth beam actually working. So that would be a huge ability to get some leverage on this situation, because Emile felt almost like locked down by it when it happened. So let's make that move. Secure an advantage with iron. We don't have really enough momentum to work off of here. But, I guess I could try and make it a little bit easier by, like, instead pissing him off by just, like, chucking a rock at the back of his head or something. Like, using edge, that would be a little bit better. But I already said the one plan, and I like it. We're going to go with my first thought on it. And just accept that it's probably not going to go great. Let's see. All right, we do get a weak hit. Just barely, but we pull it off. I rolled a 1 on my action die, but thankfully one of the challenge dice was also a 1, so we beat that with a 2. We just barely got it. So you succeed. Choose 1, 2 momentum, or 1 on your next move. I feel like this really, the fiction of what this represents of turning that on, this should be the 1 on your next move. Like, this is what's going to make it possible to secure him. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to go right into the compel roll. Actually, I think there are enough things that need to happen before the actual compel that I'm instead going to do this as momentum. Like, we're ratcheting up the pace of this. Because I think it'll only work if Vert actually asks the question. And he's a little distracted with his anger at Emile right now to say what he's supposed to say, and even look where he's supposed to look at it. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is Emile might need to face danger, honestly, to not be, because he like looks over at him to tell to cow him into like shutting the fuck up after all of his being just an annoyance. And if Emile isn't careful, he's just going to get locked up in that truth beam again. And they're going to be in like kind of both together doing that, and the wooden heart is going to be able to just utterly take over the situation. So I think Emile actually needs to face danger with Edge to like kind of, like look away, not get caught up in that, dodge his eyes before before this gets at him. Maybe I should have done this as a full combat, but I'm sticking with it as I am now. It has a lot in common with one. But anyway, let's face danger with Edge. And is there anything Emile could do to give himself a leg up on this? Any way he could secure an advantage first, or any assets that would be helping me here? I don't think so. Maybe... Oh, I guess I could try and secure an advantage by just like... He could block his display. Yeah, let's do that. Emile is going to use his computer like reflexively to sort of keep it, like make it like occlude what he's seeing so much that he can't even take in the I-beams. Like he's running off the theory that if he can't see it, maybe that'll buy him some extra time or something. It won't be able to penetrate as well. So that's going to be a secure an advantage with wits with a +1 to just kind of like bring up a sudden just screen block thing. I'm sure it's come up in the past before where like blinding lights or something, just a reactive thing. I'm sure he's got something set up like that. So secure an advantage with wits with a +1 from our tech. And we get... Oh fuck, miss with a match. You fail, and yeah, nothing I can do about that. A double 8 match. Kind of happy that happened on the secure an advantage and not the attempt to avoid the truth beam, if I'm being honest, but you fail or your assumptions betray you, pay the price. I think so the assumption was that this would buy him time and would work, which implies that like you're kind of expecting the display to be able to take some of that beam and not be as quick to get out of the way. So like I feel like maybe whatever's coming out of the eyes is corrupting the display or something. The price that's going to be paid is that until Emile gets a chance to fix it, his computer is working fine, but any amount of like the information displayed on his AR, that needs to be fixed. It's all corrupted and garbly. It's even a little bit harder to see now. Yeah, maybe it's that. It works a little bit too well to block his display. Now it's not going away. It's like frozen in place. It locks up, partly from just the interaction with this truth beam. Like it screws it up, and now he can't get it turned off and he can't see anything. So Emile is basically blind right now as he tries to now dodge and not get hit by, not be compelled to tell the truth, and then take advantage of this situation. So we were not able to secure our advantage to get any kind of benefit here. Now that I've definitely got to face that danger, there's no time to do anything else. So with Edge, and we get another miss. And again, nothing I could save with momentum. So you fail or momentary success is undermined by a dire turn of events. Pay the price. Yeah, I think that... Let's go with the obvious here. Emile is totally, like, still affected by these. Not able to get out of the way, and not, like, it... Eventually, the beam still comes through and manipulates and affects him. He's locked up in this moment as, like, I don't know if there's really anything that he could tell truth-wise, but let's see, what would Vert specifically be saying as Emile is kind of in a little bit of a rictus on this, feeling compelled to answer the call? Vert would be saying... Oh, he would probably just say something like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And so Emile, in a comedy of errors, is now compelled to tell the truth about everything he believes is wrong with him. And I'm just going to give the gist of that rather than roleplay it all out as he gives as he just dumps all of his baggage out on the table. But I think the main thrust of what Emile thinks is wrong with him is he thinks he's unable to have a relationship that isn't based on manipulation, which is a hell of a thing to say in the room in front of his bond. Like the Fern is right there, but he goes all off on that he really struggles to connect with people And because he's so used to trying to be a survivor that he sees relationships the same way. And it's just, he's just saying all of that. Meanwhile, the other price that's got to be paid, the real one, is the wooden heart is going to go buck wild now through Zoya's body. Full force, absolutely got the eyes going and everything. Full, it's like when Bane shoots up with Venom, like got that full strength. It's about to be a bad time in here. And in fact, it's a bad time now. The price that gets paid is that I think Vert is going to get utterly walloped in a way that like cinematically, like he is just like flies across the room. And by across the room, I mean out of the cell. And additionally to that, to make this a real like pay the price kind of thing. Or no, he's going to be, okay, let's do this better and smarter in a way that matters more. So the big scuffle was happening. It was really happening in the doorway because Zoya immediately bolted as soon as the door was open. There was kind of a like offensive line meets defensive line there in the doorway. Emile is getting in the way. He pisses off Vert. Vert gets distracted and looks over at Emile and gets locked up like that. In that moment, the line gets pushed backwards. Zoya is out of the cell. It's on that side and is able to utterly throw Vert into the cell and then is going to close the door that's there and smash the panel. So Vert is now locked inside the cell, and it's just Emile and Fern out here with Zoya. So now they're all separated like that. Emile is struggling to see. It's not that he's like fully blind, but it's his vision. It's really hard to look through all the garbage on his screen. I think he's going to assess the situation a little bit to figure out what is the problem. I think he's going to take his AR and just rip it off, like the whatever thing he wears on his head that projects it in front of his face. He's going to just like rip it off the side of his head, like toss it on the ground so he can see again. When he does that, he sees, Zoya is coming right at him, and that's going to be a real problem. But the bigger problem is that, like, he's not going to win in one-on-one combat, but his protector, the person that can actually maybe hold up against the wooden heart for a little bit, is stuck in that room. That's the biggest problem. So I think Emile is willing to accept that something bad might happen to him, but the most important thing for him to do, he needs to get that cell open, and he knows just how to do it. Because, yeah, the panel is smashed. It's going to need some fixing before he could use that to make it open back up. But those things run on power. And as we know, Emile has the ability to wield a kind of EMP inside himself and make it burst. And in fact, we have an asset for it that we've never used. We've never unleashed our fire. Or, well, it's fire on the track. It's the Firebrand asset reflavored. But when we make moves aided by this energy, which is currently only a +1, we get to add +2, and then we lose 1 fire. But we have just the 1 fire to pay for this. So Emile is going to face danger to make that to free Vert, who's like on the other side of the wall already. Like he's getting back up, he's recovering, but he's stuck in there. Emile is going to make a face danger move. I need to figure out with what stat, but he'll have a +2 on it as he tries to use EMP to just make the door go away and free Vert. I think it is most fair to say that this is... I could make an argument for a number of these. It's definitely not Heart. It's not Shadow. If I'm being really nice to myself, it would be Wits, but I don't think it is. I could say it would be Iron about having the strength to like make a big enough EMP blast to indeed knock this out. I could make an argument for Edge the strongest, though, I think, which is I think it's the speed that he does this that's really going to save him from being utterly flattened. Like, if he can get Vert out of here in time, that will maybe save him the problem. So, and it may be enough of a distraction to, like, not be tackled, all that stuff. So we're going to call this an Edge move. We get to add a +2 to this as we use up our 1 fire for the first time. Edge of the +2, and we get... Oh, man. We almost got a strong hit, but we did still get a weak hit. We're 1 away. If only I had just one more +1 on that. But anyway, on a weak hit, you succeed, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move -1. Let's see. I could lose it just from momentum, but if anything, this was kind of aiding the momentum of the situation. I'm going to say that Emile just he indeed gets tackled in the process as he was accepting, and so he's going to take that to his health. So health goes down to a 1. I don't think I'm going to have him try and endure that. Emile is just tackled to the ground. He calculated it would be worth it to just prioritize that, but indeed, the EMP blasts out. It frees Vert from the cell. Vert comes hustling over to like roll the captain over and lock him up in his eyes now, because it's still going. He's holding on to this kind of truth in his rage. He's feeling emotions very strongly, so he's holding on to this. Let's see, how can we make this a move that Emile is doing? Oh, Emile needs to tell him what to say. So Emile, in the tussle, like he's being like, he's like got the wind partly knocked out of him almost, and his back hurts from being slammed up. He's seeing a little bit of stars from his head being slammed up against the floor, but he's going to, in his daze, he hears Vert hustling over, and he shouts out to Vert, "Vert, look him in the eyes and ask him about the heart's weaknesses." And we're going to say that is, it's a face danger with, like, he's commanding. So that's a heart move. So we make that move and we get, come on, another weak hit. So once again, we succeed, but with another -1 suffer move. So I'm just going to say again that one, like, Emile is just getting beat the hell up while this is happening, because he can't resist it all, and like there's a very strong force that is just like slamming him against the ground over and over again, unaware of what's coming. So Emile once again goes down to now 0 health, and because he's at 0, I have to try and endure this harm. So let's make that move. That one turns into a miss, so on a miss, it's worse than you thought. Oh, but I could burn momentum to make this a weak hit, and that's probably worth it, because a miss on endure harm is not wonderful. I would have to lose 2 momentum and become wounded. It's a bad time. Let's burn the momentum. So there we go. Now it's only a weak hit, so I could lose 1 momentum for 1 health back, which would bring now that we've burned it, that would mean I'd have to bring it down to a +1 so that I'd have 1 health. No, we're on a ship with a med bay and everything. I'm more confident in our ability to bring the health back up than the momentum at the moment. So anyway, it takes some time, and Emile has to take some more licks, but Vert does indeed grab him, stare him down in the eyes, and tell him in his growling, gravelly voice, "You're gonna tell me all of the weaknesses of the wooden heart." But as for what those weaknesses are, I'm so sorry to do this, but that's a question for next time. I think there's a very strong argument to be made that all of that last kind of climax stuff probably could have been a conflict, and that would have better represented it. But, you know, part of the beauty of Starforged and Ironsworn as well is that there are often a number of different ways you can represent the same idea. Maybe you would have done that as a conflict. Maybe you like the way of doing it just as regular kind of adventure moves. I like kind of mixing it up that way a little bit. Not worrying as much about who was in control, and even still, it still didn't exactly go swimmingly for Emile. But let me know what you think. Not just about that question, but just about the podcast in general. Send me your thoughts to starforgepod@gmail.com. Or, as I said last time, you can always leave them as comments in the thread that we've got going on the Starforged Discord. Speaking of the Starforged Discord, recently I met somebody on there by the name of Eves, who is a new player to the game. But what's really cool about Eves is that Eves makes this amazing music that's... The plan is to have it inspired by the game. He's got a track over on his YouTube already, specifically for Undertaken Expedition. It is such a banger. It is so good. This guy is super talented. Listening to this immediately made me self-conscious about my own theme music on this. Like, it's nothing compared to what Eves did. So I'm going to have a link in the show notes to this track. Please check it out. It's amazing and ambient. I am so jealous, and importantly, I can't wait to hear more of what this guy does inspired by his Starforged game. That is such a cool additional thing to add on to the experience of playing Starforged. I hope to hear more of it. But with that out of the way, play me out, music.